With that, let's jump into love-hate, and we will start with the running backs. We brought up, of course, Achane before on the injury report, and we got to hear from head coach Mike McDaniel on how he's progressing.
Achane, I know you were talking about him earlier. Given what you know about his injury, is he the type of guy that you'd be able to put back in his typical workload, or would you have to ease him?
Dude, what kind of money do you have in fantasy football?
And that was Cam Wolf who asked the question. So Cam Wolf drinks free. He's looking out for us.
He is. He tries.
He really
I worked with Cam Wolf at ESPN. We were both there for a while. Big fantasy football player. He would text me all the time. He's hardcore player, really good dude as well. Obviously a great reporter, does a great job. But yeah, he legit tried to sneak one in there, and he tweeted it out. So we appreciate it, Cam. Mike McDaniel's on to us.
Yes.
Damn it. But
he didn't go full Arthur Smith, but
exactly. Yeah. He's the anti-Arthur Smith. Anyway, but Mike McDaniel's on to us. But Cameron Wolf gave it a good try there, and we appreciate you looking out for us. So yes, absolutely. Cameron Wolf drinks free today at the happy hour.
And Matthew, both Mostert and Achane come in as top 20 running backs for you this week, both of them.
They're playing Las Vegas, and they're at home, by the way. Again, Miami off the bye. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this. They're angry. They got embarrassed overseas. The narrative of they can't be a good team is still there. Las Vegas is not a good team, but they want to show what they can do. Over the last 4 weeks, Raiders allowed the most rushing yards per game to opposing running back. Devon Achane is expected back. We'll see about the workload. I don't know that the workload matters. He's a guy that can have a massive fantasy day on just 8 touches. You know what I mean as well? He's had 3 games with just 10 touches this season, with at least 10 touches. He's got 120 yards from scrimmage in all of them. Raiders, by the way, allowing almost 150 yards on the ground to opposing running backs. So, yeah, Mostert and Achane, both inside my top 20. Both of them have top 10 upside. We assume that Achane will be active. You're starting both of these guys. Both of them make the love list in week 11.
I think this game's going to be a complete destruction. The line is 13.5. I think it could
big
get
enough.
bigger. Yeah, it could get bigger. Aiden O'Connell, I know people are kind of talking up Aiden O'Connell because he's plucky and he's got moxie and stuff. He is not being good.
Because he threw a jump ball that Michael Mayer made an unbelievable play in the end zone. And so you look at the box score and you're like, look, he threw a touchdown, blah, blah, blah. You know what Aiden O'Connell's best skill is? I'll tell you. And we like Aiden O'Connell. I interviewed the kid. He juggles. He's a nice kid. We like him. We like the kid. But yeah, it's a fun skill. What skill do you have?
It's a fun little act that Aiden O'Connell has.
What skill do you bring to the table?
Juggling mustache,
not much.
man.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I can't juggle either.
Okay.
I trust if the 3 of us and Aiden O'Connell were at a party, everyone's over with Aiden O'Connell. And they're ignoring us dumb assholes. But what I'm telling you, though, is that the best thing Aiden O'Connell has going for him is that he doesn't have C.J. Uzomah on his team to have a holding penalty to take back the touchdown.
From Josh Jacobs.
From Josh Jacobs, because Breece Hall should have scored a touchdown. He did score a touchdown, but then C.J. Uzomah, one of his 8 billion penalties, that's a real number, by the way, not exaggerated. He literally had 8 billion penalties in that game.
PFF tracks these things.
It's unbelievable. Yes. And anyway, I may have had Breece Hall in a guillotine league where I got eliminated. May have had Breece Hall in a bet or 2. Not a big C.J. Uzomah fan these days.
You and all Jets Nation at the moment, right?
Well, I don't know if you get into this on your podcast. I don't listen to it. I just download it.
It's okay.
But on your podcast, Connor, did you talk about the fact that everyone wants to just bail on Zach Wilson and Robert Saleh coming out and saying, I'm sticking with it. I think he's playing pretty well. And I'm just like, yeah, you know what? You know what he doesn't do? He doesn't block. He doesn't have penalties. He doesn't make awful drops.
Like Allen Lazard.
Allen Lazard. Allen Lazard might be the worst wide receiver in the NFL. I'm dead serious.
No, it's not. You're not wrong at all at this point, especially for a number 2 paid like a borderline number 1-ish. Number 2, it makes him $11 million a year. It's been awful. It's been awful. And
I'm just I get it. Zach Wilson has made some bad plays, but to put all the Jets' issues on Wilson is completely unfair to that kid. Yeah. It's awful. And the play calling, I think, is a suspect.
Been a disaster.
And they're getting guys out there that have as much business blocking as I do. Some of these guys, some of these practice squad guys, they shouldn't even. They're not even good enough to be on a practice squad, and they're out there. They're out there on the offensive line.
We should recreate pros versus Joes.
I was just
fantasy football happy hour.
Matthew trying to kind of stunt against CJ's armor or whatever, and just try to get to the quarterback. That'd be quite good content.
I'll tell you what would happen is he would hold me.
Yeah.
Because he can't help himself. He wouldn't need to. He could literally just block me like this, but like he would grab a jersey or something like that.
Sounds personal at this point. Seems a little personal.
Everyone that has
reliving
Brees
Jets
Hall on their
postgame.
fantasy team is, yes, it's personal.
Yeah.
All right, I'm fired up.
All right, let's
I
keep
didn't
it
get a
rolling
lot of
then.
sleep last night.
Yeah, let's keep it rolling then.
we go.
Our next one
Good
here,
to have
Jay.
Connor back. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, thank you.
happy
I'm
to
trying
have
to
Connor
keep the
back.
vibes up a little bit.
Yeah.
Happy to have Connor back. Happy not to have CJ Uzama hosting the show. It's great.
Yes. Yeah, Steven's going on a vacation.
Steven's had enough.
He's truly had enough. We'll see if he comes
Steven.
back.
Now that I think about it.
Our next running back here, Jahmyr Gibbs, comes in as a top 5 running back play this week for Matthew, and Gibbs with his snap rate going up. Even with Montgomery back, Gibbs still highly effective in this Detroit offense.
Yeah, I think Gibbs is the guy you want going forward, and Montgomery's still going to have a lot of value, but Gibbs, just with that breakout performance against the Raiders, I think he's just asserted that he's just the better running back, and I think that they are beginning to feel that. In Detroit, Montgomery wasn't getting the goal line work as much against the Chargers, and now they go up against the Bears, who admittedly have a really good run defense, but Gibbs can get his work in the passing game. I'm surprised the Lions are only 7.5-point favorites at home in this one against Chicago.
I'm a little. The lines this week are weird. We talked about a lot of them yesterday as well. But look, no team in the NFL has allowed more receiving yards to opposing running backs than the Chicago Bears. You mentioned, Jay, about Gibbs being involved in the passing game. I expect that as well. He's my running back 5. Look, I believe Montgomery is still a top 20 running back, still started. But to your point, the concern at the beginning of the year was, can Jahmyr Gibbs, the way he's built and because he's a rookie, can he handle a full workload? And then because of injury to Montgomery, he was thrust into a role where he had to prove that he could, and he proved that he could in a massive, massive way. And so they like Monty, and he's still going to get his. But the fact that Jahmyr Gibbs and not Dave Montgomery got the goal line work against the Chargers just sort of tells you there's a little bit of a changing of the guard. Again, I don't think it matters because for our purposes, it comes down to am I starting this guy? And I'm not. And if you have Gibbs and or Montgomery, the answer is yes, you're starting them. You're starting both guys this week, but Gibbs is a top 5 running back play for me, even with Montgomery back against the Bears.
Our next one here, Matthew, Javonte Williams helped your best bet cash for Monday Night Football, comes in as a top 10 running back. And here's the thing with Javonte right now. He is finally, and the injury played a huge part in this, being used as the workhorse we expected him to be when he was such a promising prospect.
Back-to-back games now with 25 or more touches. And what's nice is it hasn't just been between the tackle stuff. They're using him in the passing game a little bit, almost a 16% target share over the last 3 weeks. And when we talk about that volume, again, those 25 touches over the last 2 games, and he's had at least 15, I think in 3 straight as well. Running backs that get at least 17 touches against the Vikings, and that's who the Broncos host on Sunday night right here on NBC and Peacock. I'm a company man. Running backs that get at least 17 touches against the Vikings average 17.5 fantasy points. Now, an average, Jay, I know you're not a math guy, but what an average means is that it's like a median score, because there are some people that score higher than 17.5 fantasy points, and there's some that are lower. But in essence, that's your average. That's kind of your floor is what we're talking about here. So there's a chance that Javonte Williams goes over 17.5 fantasy points in this one. That's how math works.
Wow,
I went on when I was gone.
You want to take notes? Go ahead.
Can I give you another number, another
notes.
piece of math?
Sure.
So here's the other thing, is that the Broncos, their pass rate over expected is 26th in the NFL. And I think that really came to the fore against the Bills, where they don't want to let Russ cook. They've locked away the chef's hat. They've locked him out of the kitchen, and it's handoffs. They were playing as though Zach Wilson was their quarterback instead of Russell Wilson against Buffalo. So I think that this is a team that just wants to run the ball, and they don't want to put it in Russ's hands.
And especially with their defense playing better as well, that makes sense. And by the way, it's working for. It'd be one thing if it's just like, what are you doing, Denver? But honestly, they've been one of the better teams in the NFL over the last couple of weeks. Beating the Chiefs and the Bills in back-to-back games, that's okay, Denver, I see you. And so I have Javonte Williams as a top 10 play this week.
Some others receiving votes here: Jerome Ford, Brian Robinson, and Ty Chandler all come in as top 25 plays this week. Jay, Ford's got the Steelers. Brian Robinson against the Giants defense, which, a lot of running backs have had success there. And then Ty Chandler, with Alexander Madison's concussion, looked pretty spry for the Vikings last week as well.
He did. Jerome Ford's interesting to me just because now he's in this new offense with DTR. I'm shocked that the Browns were able to run the ball as effectively as they did against Baltimore. I think that bodes well now. You're going up against a less fearsome rushing defense with the Steelers. And then with Ty Chandler, I think that it was instructive just the way that James Cook was able to run the ball against the Broncos. They've gotten better since that Miami disaster, but still, that's not a run defense that you fear. So I think Ty Chandler might have a good game if Alexander Mattison cannot go.
Yeah, but he's still in the concussion protocol. We'll continue to track that as well. But I agree with you. Their last 4 weeks, to your point, Broncos allow 5.8 yards per carry to opposing running backs. That is the most in the NFL. It's all about touches. Like, again, with DTR under center, we expect a lot of work for Jerome Ford, who already has gotten 43 touches the past 2 games with Deshaun Watson under center. So with DTR, you expect them to go even more run heavy. That offensive line is a strength of the Browns offense. Steelers have allowed 100 rushing yards in 6 straight. And then Brian Robinson. It's been up and down. I don't expect the passing game usage from last week to continue, but I do think he gets into the end zone. No team in the NFL has allowed more rushing touchdowns this year than the New York Giants. Brian Robinson keeps scoring against the Giants. If they get in close, it's usually him. Love Robinson as an anytime touchdown bet this week against the Giants as well. Worth noting that 83% of the team running back touches inside the 10-yard line for the Commanders this year have gone to Brian Robinson. When they get in close, they give it to B-Rob.
Moving over to the hate list, led by Isiah Pacheco. Still comes in as a top 25 running back for you, Matthew, but he's hit a little bit of a slump, and you don't want to see the Philadelphia Eagles when you're looking to break out of one at the running back position.
No team allows less rushing yards per game to running backs than the Philadelphia Eagles. There has not yet to be a running back that has had over 60 rushing yards this season against Philadelphia. Like, that's how good they are. Like, literally, the next guy to get 60 yards against the Eagles running the ball will be the first this season as well. In fact, since week 2, there have been only 2 running backs in the NFL that have scored double-digit fantasy points against the Eagles. So
and they let Breece Hall score, by the way.
Yeah,
they let him score.
Right, exactly.
So think about that.
They let him score. And what's weird is Uzomah still held on the play.
They just didn't see
but
it.
But the refs didn't see it. Go back and watch the film. You'll just see the refs just totally missed it. But Uzomah did everything he could to,
sink Breece
get it
Hall's
called
touchdown
back.
equity.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Sean McDermott actually tried to fire CJ Uzomah yesterday,
Yes,
but then he
running
was
out of
informed
people.
a lot of
I listened to the whole press conference. Actually, they blame Uzomah's lack of development on Ken Dorsey. And so that's one of the reasons why Dorsey was fired by the Bills, is because Uzomah has yet to develop for the Jets or the Bengals. The other thing here, by the way, about Pacheco, I should say, is he's had under 70 yards from scrimmage in 4 of the past 5. This feels like, I'll just say this, and you see it there on your screen in terms of what Pacheco has done. What do we always say? What do you do against Philadelphia? Start your tight ends.
Yeah.
This feels like, and now you've got the best tight end in football. This feels like for a lot of reasons, a big Mahomes-Kelce game. Not only because of the matchup, not only because it's Mahomes versus Hurts, not only because the Chiefs coming off of a loss. We know how good Andy Reid is off the bye, and just all the hoopla that is surrounded about are the Chiefs over, blah, 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 and all the stuff. And, I bet you, Travis went to Argentina and said, listen, T-Swizzle, need you back in the States. Let's go.
We need to beat the Eagles.
We need to beat the Eagles.
I think that, there's been so much chatter
and by
about...
the way, she is, I believe this is true. I don't want any of the Swifties to come after me because, listen, I'm one of you. I'm a Swiftie. I believe she grew up in Pennsylvania and that she's a Steelers fan prior to this relationship with, but that is her. I believe the Steelers are her team.
Or
were her
Kenny
team.
Pickett? Yeah.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Wouldn't you?
That's fair.
He's the biggest Matt Canada fan.
Yeah. That's approved.
You think Pat Fryermuth is like, thanks,
what
Kenny
about me?
Pickett.
Could have been me.
This could have been me.
Yeah. She was so close. With
So
Pat
close.
Frymouth. Look.
Anyway, so.
There's been so much chat about the Chiefs' offense and it being it's just not working as well as it did last season. The passing offense is fine. They've got the 5th most efficient passing offense. Patrick Mahomes is doing his job. They have the 3rd worst rushing offense, which is just inconceivable with the amount of light boxes that you must get when you have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. So I'm not sure what is going on there, whether it's the play calling, whether it's the blocking, but I do think they're going to come out and they're going to throw the ball a ton against Philadelphia because we saw what Dak Prescott did to them last time we saw this Philadelphia defense. It's not a great pass defense at the moment. I think that coming out of the bye, Andy Reid, 2 weeks, how do we fix this? Let's give it to Patrick Mahomes more.
Right.
So I think that's the answer.
And I like the Chiefs -3. Again, Andy Reid off of a bye, especially in the Mahomes era, is like, I think he's got 1 loss. Yeah, so.
Moving over to those Steelers, led by Najee Harris here. Sorry, Jay. RB26 for Matthew this week, and a week that Jalen Warren is now the guy.
Najee.
They came out and announced. They officially announced Jalen Warren is
They
the starter.
didn't have to say that.
They didn't have to. Like, anyone who watched football sort of knew that. But it, while it is ceremonial in nature because both guys are still going to play a lot, I do think I think it's important for the team and the locker room and just, for the player. That is Jalen Warren, not Najee Harris, who is so touchdown dependent. In games in which he doesn't get a touchdown, Jay, he's averaging under 8 fantasy points per game.
Why are you looking at me?
Yeah, because you love Najee Harris. You love him like he's one of your own children.
I'm not blocking for it.
By the way, 6 of 9 games this season. There have been only 3 games this entire year that the Browns have allowed a running back to score a rushing touchdown. 6 out of 9, no dice. And so, again, Harris, who without a touchdown is fairly useless in fantasy, don't love this matchup as well. Browns allow the 6th fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs. I have Harris outside my top 25 for the week.
Yeah, I think back to when these two teams played in that primetime game in week 2, and just the fact that the Steelers, their attempts to run the ball were just comical. They averaged 2.6 yards per carry, and that's because Najee kind of flukishly broke 2 10-yarders from memory. So I just don't think they're going to be able to run the ball at all. Najee, I don't know if he's injured or he just looks so slow out there. Yeah. He cannot make guys miss in the open field. It's like watching Latavius Murray trying to beat DJ Jones, but every play for Najee Harris just can't do it. And Jalen Warren,
like a slow Latavius Murray.
I know he doesn't have
Latavius Murray's like 33. Now,
I'm just
32?
saying, like if Latavious Murray and Najee Harris had a 40-yard dash, I think I'd put my money on Latavius.
Yeah, and I'd certainly putting my money on Jalen Warren over among the 3 of them. He just seems to add a lot more burst to their offense.
Yeah, he does. And I mean, just the entire offense looks just awful. And I think if you're the Browns, you're like, we'll take our chances with Kenny Pickett throwing it.
Our last one here is Darrel Henderson against the Seahawks. Really, Jay, besides the disaster against the Ravens, the Seahawks have had a tough front 7 against running backs this year. And the Rams, they're a team that's clearly waiting on Kyren Williams to come back and make an impact that the running backs they've been rolling with have not.
Yeah, and this is a solid defense in Seattle. I think there was the hope that they might be an elite defense. I don't think that's the case. They got really lit up by Baltimore. But outside of that, I mean, this is a borderline top 10 rushing defense in terms of efficiency. So I think it's going to be difficult. And also, think about what Puka Nacua did to the Seahawks back in week 1 when they played. Like, you can beat Seattle through the air. And with Stafford back, I think they'll be throwing the ball.
I mean, that's the key, right? Stafford's back. The offense will be more efficient. I think it's going to be Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, who I both have inside my top 20 this week. If there's one positive for Henderson, it is that he is involved in the passing game, like him over Freeman in terms of the running back you want in the passing game. But to your point, Connor, about Seattle being so tough, literally there are 2 running backs. There's only 2 running backs this entire year that have run for at least 60 yards against the Seahawks. Take out that Ravens game, which is just bad day at the office. They were on the road. Keaton Mitchell has big runs. If you take out that Baltimore game, Seattle allows just 3.2 yards per carry to opposing running backs. So they have been very good. Henderson's averaging under 3 yards per carry in his 3 games as a Ram. It's either him or Royce Freeman that might fall into the end zone. Freeman got the last goal line carry. He's outside my top 25. I think he's a desperation flex, barely inside my top 30. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.